Okay, we're live now, and let's wait for some viewers to join in. And while we wait for viewers to join in, मैं आपसे बिल्कुल एक सबसे पहला typical question पूछूंगी कि how's the weather at your place right now?
Sunny, not that bad.
Huh. Not bad, really? At the end
Not
of
that,
June?
yeah, not that bad. Yeah, today
Wow.
I don't know. After the eclipse, the weather sort of changed a
This will
little, I
improve.
think.
Achha. No, I always wish because whoever I ask, they always say, "Kacha, it's not really bad." And I'm like, "Hey, am I the only one who thinks weather is still bad? Or am I the only one complaining about it?" So that's kind of weird. So I do have a few viewers. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. If you could please confirm me in the comments that you can hear and see us both clearly so that we may begin. Thank you. So, and how's your quarantine going?
Good, I think. It does get frustrating sometimes,
Uh-huh.
but it's okay. I try and sort of, engaging myself in
Uh-huh.
preparing myself for, working
Yeah.
after the quarantine and even in between. So just working
True.
on myself. Yeah.
True. But you're taking this time to like really focus on yourself, that kind of thing. But the focus on things that we in our routine days we don't have much time for, that kind
That's
of
true.
thing.
That's
Okay. So
yes.
yeah, Assalamu alaikum Maruf. Thank you for your confirmation and we are ready to go. Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Rida Zainab from Creative Kinner House and today I have with me Afia Aslam Khwaja. She's a certified dyslexia interventionist and she completed her M.Phil degree in linguistics in 2018 from Beacon House National University. She has also done a certificate program in dyslexia from Dyslexia Training Institute in San Diego and she has experience in remediating students for reading comprehension, decoding, encoding, spelling, and creative writing. Additionally, Afia has an intervention with children diagnosed with dyslexia using the Orton-Gillingham approach. I hope I pronounced that right. She
Yes.
she uses a structured approach for teaching reading and writing skills for children aged between 5 and 12 years. And currently, Afia is also doing work in adapting the structured literacy program for distance learning alongside giving workshops on Orton Gillingham approach. Hello, Afia. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited about this discussion. So, before we head on that, I've given your introduction, but still, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, I did my linguistics degree, and I completed it in 2018. Before completing it in 2017, I had started sort of working in
Mm-hmm.
the education industry, and for me, Rida, this taking this route wasn't really, I didn't expect it. Actually, I didn't even ever think of coming this way. I wanted to be a regular teacher and just teach English maybe. So I
Mm-hmm.
never thought of this, but somehow unexpectedly this area, special education, this came towards me. And then I decided, okay, then if this is coming towards me, let's just grab the opportunity and experience it. So, because I used to be like, this is very difficult. How would I do it? But I started doing it. And because I was doing linguistics, so I started narrowing down my field towards language, trying to understand the
Mm-hmm.
language structure, which meant I was trying to focus on second language students, but then more specifically, it became dyslexic students. And then I took the training where I did my practicum, worked with students, and this is how I started sort of helping students in this area.
No, matlab, you all so basically you always knew you wanted to come into teaching, and then you diversified your branch.
No, I was a
अच्छा वो भी
content
नहीं.
writer. No, I was a
Okay, okay.
content writer before I did liberal arts. I used to write. So from there, in 2016, when I finished my bachelor's, I was exploring myself, what forms of writing can I do. When I was doing that, somehow something clicked, and I was like, no, I want to do linguistics. While doing that, I started getting opportunities for facilitating students with these needs. And this is how the idea came to me, why not do this? Because I also felt that, there is this need to help such students, to support such students. So this
Definitely,
is how I
definitely.
got it. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, even today, while there is some, like, people know that dyslexia is a thing, but like knowing about it, what it actually is still
In question,
don't know.
really.
Yeah, we don't know enough about it. So let's
That's true.
start from there. Can you tell us a bit about dyslexia, what it
Okay,
is?
so dyslexia is it's a language disability, basically, right? And this disability is um, it's it's neurological. It's
Okay.
in the makeup. By neurological, what I mean by neurological is that your brain is structured in a way. Your left brain works in the language area, also called the language center. So
Okay.
when that part has some problem, there's some problem in the brain function in that area, what happens is it affects your word recognition. You can't recognize words. This is why there is some issue with reading fluency. In reading fluency, it affects your reading fluency, your decoding skills. Decoding skills are your reading skills, how you would read, would you blend, how would you manipulate sounds. So all of this, everything that's related to language is affected in dyslexia. But there might or might not be speech issues with such children, but they will have specific problems with reading and writing. They'll be very slow in that area.
Okay.
Comprehension
So,
is secondary. Yes.
sorry for interrupting you. I wanted to
Yes.
ask, you said you're reading and writing. Would it be like both, or is it possible that one dyslexic child would have problems only in reading and not in writing?
No. So basically, your reading and writing skills, let me start from here. Your
Okay.
speaking and listening skills are natural, right? Speaking and listening is natural, right? Whereas reading and writing, these are human inventions. And when we're reading, we sort of also translate that into writing. Now, by writing, I do not mean how you hold a pencil or how are you forming the letter. That's not what I mean by writing. By
Mhm.
writing, I mean spelling words. So, a child who has issues with reading will definitely have problems with writing. The
Spelling.
intensity might might differ. For example,
Mhm.
a child who has problems with the phonological component, which I mean that child cannot differentiate between sounds. If that area is where more work is needed, then that's the area where we will work, but that doesn't mean that that child will not show any signs of problems or in writing. The
Okay.
intensity might matter. Some might be having more problems with writing, others might have more problems with reading or any specific branch of that, but they will have these problems in all these areas. More or later, that depends on the child.
Okay. So we have a question in the comments before I ask my other questions. Do dyslexic kids have problem communicating?
Yes. Um, well, it also depends on how you train a child, basically. But
Okay.
generally, dyslexic kids do find it difficult to communicate. They hesitate communicating. It's because when you read, what you're doing is basically you sort of are enhancing your vocabulary in a certain area, or
Yeah.
even generally when you're trying to socialize. Now we are informed about words, about vocabulary through reading or other modes of communication, right? Now if such a child is not reading up to that level, and the vocabulary development is slow, the exposure to uh, the words is limited, obviously the way they would want to express it would be a problem as well. But this is not the sole reason.
Okay.
The other reason is because learning disabled students are now somewhat not really labeled, but they're not also very well treated, I believe. uh, those students somewhere know that we have a problem. So this is why they will also hesitate, because they're not very articulate with the way they're communicating, the way they would want to say something. So yes, that the answer is shortly yes.
So basically, it's like while they're not necessarily labeled, but they're still sort of some sort of stigma attached that would
Yes,
like hinder
that's
their communication.
yes. I mean, they are labeled, but now it's somewhat changing. But
Hmm.
I won't say on a large scale, at least in Pakistan, I would say.
Okay. So before we come to the like how we can diagnose dyslexia, can you tell us about the prevalence of this? Is it a disorder or it's a disability?
So basically, good question. Um,
Thank you.
it's defined as a learning disability,
Okay.
right? And it would become a disorder. It's so basically disability and disorder and delay. Let
Mm-hmm.
me let me bring in the third term as well. Disorder
Yeah.
and disability basically are used interchangeably. Disability is basically when there is some structure, there is, if being specific to language related disability, so there is some sort of problem, uh,
Okay.
but there there's completely no disruption. It's not like it's completely disrupted, but there are some interruptions in that structure, whereas in disorder it's a complete chaos. So now, whether you say disability or disorder, they use it interchangeably, but usually because it's specific. If it's only dyslexia, if you're saying it's specific, so usually they say it's disability. Now,
Okay.
disorder, disability, and delay. Sometimes the child, the normal structure is there, the language structure is there, but the child is picking it up slow, or is expressing it slowly. So that is delay. So disorders, disability, they have similar characteristics. What
Mm-hmm.
differs is delay and disability. Usually, sometimes what happens is that a child is not picking up on writing or reading or the concept of print, and what parents or teachers might sometimes think, oh, this child is dyslexic, maybe, which might not be the case. That child might just need a different teaching approach, but doesn't specifically need intervention,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, so that's about it.
Yeah. Okay. So, like you said, some people often say that my child might be dyslexic, or if, like in a normal school, teachers also, if they're not trained, they might be concerned because of the delay thing that the child might be dyslexic. So, the next question is how can dyslexia be diagnosed to see if the child actually has dyslexia or not?
um, Dyslexia can definitely be diagnosed like other disorders are diagnosed. You have proper assessments called formal assessments. You have those
Okay.
assessments. you would do those assessments to figure it out. But let's say your child is in primary, in lower elementary, and the age I'm talking about is 4, 5, 6, four
Okay.
years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. So research informs us, and also that I've seen it in my experience, you will not be very quick in labeling. Now, Rita, the other thing is that mostly the researches that take place, they take place not in our society. And also, the language that they are researching on is English, right? Their native
Yeah.
language. Now, the concept that would talk about here is bilingualism, talking about two languages here. So, a child with dyslexia is usually, the experts say that, keep that child specific to one language so that he or she can master that language. Now, here, because we officially and even socially, we need to speak in English, what we're doing is that child is listening to Urdu at home, but is
Mhm.
expected to express in English because basically the academic setting that we're in, we encourage English, right? So now the
Yeah.
child is dealing with two problems, second language and dyslexia, right? So what was your question again? Sorry, I sort of went into
No,
a
we were
lot of
talking
detail.
about how
So
dyslexia is diagnosed.
is diagnosed. Right,
Yeah.
yeah. So now when this happens, one should not be very quick to say, "Oh, go to an educational psychologist or a neuropsychologist and get your child diagnosed." No, though by we I mean those who are actually trained in this area. They have that space to actually test the students who are struggling with reading and writing. So there are some informal tests which you can take so that you can uncover the likelihood of
Okay.
that child having dyslexia or not. So there is informal testing and then there's formal testing. In informal, it's basically just to see if the symptoms are closer to that of a dyslexic child or not. Informal, they rule out many things. They'll go for an IQ test and other several things. So basically, they'll look at different areas. But in informal, we are specific to reading and writing.
Okay. So, like you also said, kid, we shouldn't be quick to take to a psychologist or quick to label.
Yeah.
And like informal testing is done. Then what can we say? Okay, what is the age at which one should be really concerned at, or how early can this be diagnosed? कोई इसका age factor?
It can be as early as age 5, age 6. जब बच्चे को print का understanding आना शुरू हो जाता है, the child is going to school. हो तो सकता है,
Mm-hmm.
but what I'm trying to say is कि because आप English में करोगे test,
हाँ.
ठीक है? हो सकता है English इतनी अच्छी समझ नहीं आ रही है, right? So it's better कि आप 7 के बाद ट्राई करो या 7 at the age of 7 if you see कि consist. Okay, another thing,
Yeah.
why what I mean by saying कि age of 7 का मतलब है कि उससे पहले not don't just leave the child, oh struggling हो जाएगा by the age of 7,
Hmm.
नहीं. अगर तब तक आप उस बच्चे को remediate कर रहे हो, if you're reteaching, if you're giving that one-to-one or a group specific attention to that child and seeing कि कौन से areas में problems आ रही हैं, and you are giving that attention, that focus to the child, or changing your strategies in a way to fit his or her need, and then that child is still lacking in those areas or lagging behind in class, then that's where you say, okay, ab main, ab I would like to go and meet an educational psychologist. So 7, I would say 7, if
Okay.
intervention or if this is sorry, remediation is done.
Okay. So I'm gonna take another comment. Can they grow out of it? Out of dyslexia?
No. You cannot grow out of it. See, dyslexia is not. It doesn't worsen with time. Similarly, it you don't even grow out of it. Cure नहीं है, treatment है. Treatment ये है that you can get better. You can get better at the language because you'll be taught in a certain way, but you will not grow out of it. मतलब आपकी not that I have 1 year this child is doing intervention with a specialist and will start reading at the same pace as a non-dyslexic student. It's not going to happen. That will stay. But एक betterment आ जाएगी. And also like the sort of programs that are used for such students are basically like the structured literacy programs. If you research again informs us that if you do that for 80 hours consecutively, 80 hours of that teaching with a dyslexic child, what you will have is an improvement of one grade level. Another concept that I would add here is that of brain rewiring. So imagine that you have this circuitry, right? Circuit होता है. हमने किया हुआ है ये अगर कुछ साइंस में किया वो सर्किट्स करते थे series.
Yeah.
So all of that so take that language center like that. So if there's when you have a reading deficit, you have a glitch in that area, right? So in order to help a student with that glitch, you'll be teaching, right? You would teach so that it gets better for that glitch. But वो glitch हट नहीं जाएगा बिल्कुल completely, right? So this is what intervention intends to do. Intends to rewire that circuitry there, that neural circuitry.
Yeah. मतलब वही बात है कि through intervention we are going to work on helping the child, the adult, to like sort of improve upon the condition, but it would not be uh, eradicated. I'm
Yes.
going to take another comment. Autism Islamabad Division is asking, what are the red flags for dyslexia?
Okay. So red flags of dyslexia, basically, it depends which level are you talking about, right? If you're talking about preschool, it's different. If you're talking about primary, it's different. Then upper elementary, it's different. Okay? Mainly, I'll share some flags. Let's say if the child is going to enter preschool abhi ghar pe 3-4 years age, 3-4 years, what it would be, that child would not understand the idea of print. Book दी है
Mhm.
बच्चे को, book दी है, and you're modeling it, you आप read करते हो, you're reading it aloud. The child is not getting it, and it's also not syncing with your tone and pitch. You read aloud, ye hua, then it went like this, and all those punctuations that you're using, exclamation aaya, see. So if the
Yeah.
child doesn't tune in with you, if the child doesn't understand, अच्छा ये book है, अच्छा ये words होते हैं, these letters or these graphemes give you they represent sounds, then there's a problem. Then the other thing is that the child will, as जैसे केजी का बच्चा for example, मैं हर ग्रेड से एक एक आपको बता रही हूँ.
Okay.
केजी grade 1, grade 2, these students will find it difficult to rhyme. Rhyming patterns are difficult for them. They wouldn't understand word families. Patterns ही समझ नहीं आ रहे हैं उनको. ये क्या है. I have worked with students, like, okay, I've given you three sounds. K, at. What word is it? नहीं समझ आ रही. अभी I'm just working on sounds. अभी letter मैंने introduce ही नहीं करवाया. And they'll be like, we don't know. I'm like, okay, so I'll tell you. giving them, okay, so this is multisensory, so some sort of thing that they can touch, like color pencils or anything, and they have sounds, right? So one color represents one sound, so at, they have that there, and they'd be like, we don't know. I'll say, okay, I'll do it for you. At, see, at, right? At, ho gaya, VC, samjha diya. Okay, now the first one is k, that sound is k, right? Cat. Okay, follow the pattern. 80 करवा रहे हैं सारे. Leave the first sound. Let's do the middle one and the last one. So what was it? At, right? So now if I have at, leave the first sound aside for a minute. Let's do the other two. What is it? They don't know. So they're not following it. They're not, it's not that they're not paying attention. It's, you're not paying attention. Teachers would be like, you are not,
Yeah.
they are trying their best, but they are unable to follow the pattern, and they will be slow. The reinforcement is needed continuously. We need to follow their pace. They cannot follow our pace, and we shouldn't even expect it.
True. Definitely.
Then reading, if you're talking about upper elementary kids, they will still have issues with understanding or sounding out syllables. The word majestic, how many syllables does it have? Two, five, four, no concept. Now, this can also be a second language problem. Maybe the students have not been taught syllables in that way, right? That can also be an issue. But then this one, for example, anyone would say, they can't sound it out, oh, they're dyslexic. No. There's a series of symptoms that you need to see, which means you have to see the educational history of the child as well. Can they organize? Are they having problems with following the patterns? Do they transpose letters in words? So, all these things, they add up. Just because a child is not paying attention, or a child is unable to differentiate, you cannot label dyslexic. You could put series of symptoms hote hain jo, they can also have speech issues, Rita. They might have a delayed speech as well, picking up sounds, like I told you, जैसे आप read aloud भी कर रहे हो जब,
Yeah.
so वो चीज समझने भी, comprehend करने में भी इनको इश्यू सकती है, but comprehension, at least reading comprehension, is a secondary problem. Not all dyslexic kids have it. Some are very good at comprehending. So these are the red flags basically.
आपने जब बाइलिंगुअलिज्म की व्हेन यू वर टॉकिंग अबाउट दैट कि ये भी इशू आ सकता है कि जो टेस्टिंग है, जो फॉर्मल टेस्टिंग भी है, वो मोस्टली इंग्लिश बेस्ड है, राइट? तो अब
Right.
पाकिस्तान में इज देयर समथिंग, has something been already developed, or is there something in progress कि हम जो है अपनी लैंग्वेज के हिसाब से टेस्टिंग करें?
Okay, that's actually a very good question, and something that I really want to happen. UK, see, here I'll make a connection of this linguistics degree that I took, and here me trying to figure out कि अब करना क्या है, disabilities, or so what happens is कि I did read up कि कुछ एक दो researches हुई हैं where they've tried to come up with these assessments, but practically I haven't seen any of that happening. Not at all. नहीं हो रहा. English में ही हो रहा है. Me being a linguist, there were many people who did approach me, many speech language pathologists who did approach me, that Afia, how about you've taken this training, so how about you do, let's do this. लेकिन उसमें भी बहुत लंबा प्रोसेस है, उसमें भी अभी बहुत टाइम लगेगा. करंटली प्रैक्टिकली कुछ हो नहीं रहा in terms of assessment in these languages. A few days ago, I was reading that in India, they've actually come up with this assessment in 4 languages, Hindi और उनकी 2-3 और languages हैं जिसमें, but in Pakistan we still need work on that. अब what I do is, for example, जब मैं informal testing करती हूँ, just to have an idea, कि क्या ये इस तरफ जा रहा है, so
Yeah.
किस किस्म की approach use करनी. because I have a background in linguistics, I understand the language and the phonological part of it in that sense, right? Phonology समझ आती है मुझे उस तरीके से. So अगर एक बच्चा मुझे react नहीं कर रहा on a certain sound, ठीक है, मैं बहुत simple सा एक दे रही हूँ. It also, or for
Yeah.
example, if that child is listening to a teacher, maybe उसका accent समझ नहीं आ रहा. So for example, or maybe वो चीज जो जिस तरीके से वो उस चीज को अप्रोच कर रहा है बच्चा, I feel and I believe that I have that lens for seeing it कि is it genuinely there's a problem or कोई external factor उसको affect कर रहा है, which is why whenever I have that test in front of me, there are I try to modify it using our context. So questions अगर जो होंगे वो उनके उसके हिसाब से होते हैं फॉर्मली, लेकिन मैं अपने कॉन्टेक्स्ट के हिसाब से दोनों लैंग्वेजेस को रखते हुए, सो यू नो थोड़ा आइडिया हो सके. एक्चुअली अगर ये चीज हो जाए ना दैट we develop one in our language, this will really help us. जब आप दोनों लैंग्वेजेस में करोगे ना, हमें ज्यादा अच्छे तरीके से एक अंडरस्टैंडिंग मिल जाएगी ऑफ दैट चाइल्ड. बिकॉज वी आर बाइलिंगुअल्स ना, बाइलिंगुअल्स के
Yeah.
पास बहुत फायदा होता है अगर उसको उस तरीके से हम एक्सप्लोर करें.
Properly लिया जाए तो कोई difference नहीं. I'm gonna take another comment from the comment section. Question from the comments: is dyslexia inherited?
Right. So yes, developmental dyslexia or primary dyslexia जो है ना, that does run in your genes. Okay. So it
Okay.
does run in your genes. There are many types of dyslexia, right? But usually what happens is later in life also someone can acquire dyslexia. Now this is a debatable topic because those who acquire dyslexia are not basically dyslexics. There's another term for it, alexia, alexia.
Okay.
Some say, this is a form of dyslexia. Well, yes, they're saying it because the symptoms are such.
Uh-huh.
रीडिंग राइटिंग इश्यूज हो जाते हैं, ब्रेन डैमेज हुआ है. ब्रेन डैमेज हुआ है तो आपका जो लैंग्वेज सेंटर है वो अफेक्ट हो गया है, या कोई स्ट्रोक हुआ है, तो आपके सिम्टम्स वैसे होंगे. बट बेसिकली सम एक्सपर्ट्स से कि डिसलेक्सिया वही होता है जो डेवलपमेंटल होता है, जो जीन्स में रन कर रहा होता है. अगर कोई लेटर स्टेज में इसको एक्वायर करता है, दैट्स एलेक्सिया और एक्वायर्ड एलेक्सिया, बट दैट्स नॉट डिसलेक्सिया.
Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you. Sorry.
जी.
लेटेस्ट स्टेज में जो acquire की बात है, इसमें when you said it first, जो मेरे जहन में expression आया था वो ये कि it's been running in the genes, right? लेकिन उस हम कहते हैं ना कि जीन की expression होना, sometimes you're just carrier of a gene, right? But the gene is not always expressed. So
Right.
later stage में because of some situations it can be expressed. वो होता है ना कि some genes are activated because of
I
environmental
get it.
factors. Yeah. So is that like different from alexia or is that the same thing? For
अच्छा नहीं, रिदा ऐसे नहीं होता कि वो I understand. I know where you're coming from. Thank God I did read a little. I did do some science studies in my high
okay.
school, so I understand what you're saying. नहीं ऐसे नहीं होता. जो what I'm trying to say is acquired dyslexia या acquired alexia is basically which you acquire after having a brain damage. लाइक फिजिकली डैमेज हुआ हो ब्रेन आपका, किसी ना किसी एक्सीडेंट या किसी प्रॉब्लम की वजह से. ठीक है. जो डिसलेक्सिया विल ऑलवेज शो इट सिम्टम. अगर डेवलपमेंटल है ना, अगर इफ यू लुकिंग एट द ट्रैजेक्टरी ऑफ द चाइल्ड, इट विल ऑलवेज शो इट्स सिम्टम्स. ऑलवेज चाइल्ड को बचपन से ही प्रॉब्लम होगी, ये नहीं होगा कि उसके बाद हुआ. लाइक आई एम सेइंग, ना ये वर्सन होती है ना ये कहीं बीच में गायब होके वापस आती है, अपेयरिंग डिसअपेयरिंग ऐसा कुछ नहीं करती है. काफी मतलब सीधी डिसेबिलिटी है that develops and goes with
Right.
age. Yeah, it stays with the person. Yes.
Okay. Uh, I also want to talk about क्या कहते हैं जो approach की बात थी कि push in versus pull out,
Yeah.
which approach is better. But before we go into that, I'm just gonna take one more question from the comments. Is there any online performer or source to check the symptoms for parents at home for initial assessment?
Okay. Yes. Which is called screening. अब जो screening होती है, like it's part of informal testing होती है. But again, like I said, जो हो तो सकता है, but if I talk about my context, like
Yeah.
Pakistan, यहाँ इतने you need to have that understanding to actually even do an online test. Because again, वो जो testings है ना, वो सारी उन लोगों ने अपने in the West, वो उन लोग ने native language को रखते हुए they've done that testing. So when you do it online, there is a chance that it might go wrong. Because when we do it, we exactly know where the child is coming from. We would ask कितनी languages आती हैं, कितनी languages बच्चा सुनता है, ठीक है? क्योंकि language perform भी तो हो रही होती है, right? Even if the
Exactly.
child is
Exactly.
reading or writing, it's not specific कि वहां से language start कहाँ से होती है, by listening to it, right? When a child is young, he listens or she listens. तो वो सारे questions जो हैं, that they can answer it online, but it can go wrong because if a parent is sitting with the child, parent तो अपने perspective से देगा, वो perspective subjective होगा. But when a specialist will do it, वो सारी चीजों को रखते हुए उस चीज को करेगा, वो neutral होगा. So I do not recommend online क्योंकि ऐसे तो पता नहीं बहुत से बच्चों को dyslexia कह दिया जाएगा, honestly.
True. लेकिन मैं ये भी पूछना चाहूंगी कि जो क्या कहना चाहिए प्रोफेशनल उसमें भी how big is the chance of bias वो होता है ना एक confirmation bias नाम की भी एक चीज होती है like तो जब प्रोफेशनल्स टेस्ट कर रहे हैं डिसलेक्सिया के लिए तो how common is it to misdiagnose?
See, like I told you, formal में it's a different thing. Informal में क्या होता है कि चीजें बहुत specific है. हमारा जो screener होता है ना, वो बहुत specific होता है. And again, like I said, when we're especially doing, why I'm talking more about informal testing is because abhi we're talking about uncovering the likelihood, right? क्योंकि अभी तो पहले हमें ये जानना है अपनी society में. So वो करने के लिए it's very specific. तो जितनी training मैंने ली हुई है, and also I try reading up more on it. उससे पहले we are already trained by people जो हमें informal करने की भी इजाजत देते हैं. You know, ये जो researches होती है, सारा कुछ होता है, they teach us how flexible can you be. And screener पे ये होगा कि आपके पास range आ जाती है. So misdiagnose इसलिए नहीं हो सकता because वो आपको range में बात बता रहे हैं. वो आपको ये नहीं कह रहे कि हो गया या नहीं हो रहा, रेंज पे
range
कितना क्लोजर है कितना नहीं है. एंड देन क्या होता है कि इट्स नॉट डन वंस स्क्रीनिंग. you say अगर closer है then you directly start with intervention, or you can be a little loose with the child. अगर थोड़ा loosely उसको instruct करो, अगर gap ज्यादा है, अगर वो बच्चा की symptoms इतने नहीं है, do that. And then see after a few months कि इस instruction, इस specific instruction के बाद has the child improved? If yes, good to go. If no, intervention करें. Give the child a year or two, see कितना improve कर गया, and then if you still think there is some problem, go and get formal testing. लेकिन फॉर्मल टेस्टिंग के लिए भी देश डिसलेक्सिया की नॉलेज होना बहुत जरूरी है, जो कि नहीं, आई डोंट फील कि अभी इतनी है फॉर्मल टेस्टिंग में नहीं है. फॉर्मल टेस्टिंग के लिए नहीं है, एक्चुअली इनफॉर्मल में भी नहीं है बिकॉज आई डोंट मेनी पीपल हु डू इनफॉर्मल टेस्टिंग रियली. तो ये चीज है.
Okay. So Rahma Sohail is saying great conversation. Thank you for your comment, Rahma. Abdullah Ahmed is saying a brilliant session. Thank you, Abdullah. Mavish Aslam Khwaja is saying wow, very interesting. Thank you so much for your comment, Mavish. So, Afia, let's talk about the approaches, uh, push in versus pull out. Can
Okay. I'll,
expand on them and then we can see okay, which approach is better.
okay. So, push in, matlab, in a classroom setting, a teacher goes in or a specialist goes in and stays with the child when the general education teacher or the teacher or the class teacher is teaching. The teacher stays with the child, is supporting, is co-teaching. So whatever the child is listening to, उसी को अब दो तरीके, या तो आप वेट कर लो, let the teacher finish, and then उसको reteach करो वहीं बैठे हुए within class. Or yeah, if the classroom, the size is bigger, the classroom size is bigger,
Mhm.
take the child closer to the wall or somewhere, where that child feels कि उसकी अपनी एक space है, and then reteach the concept, make it easier, use specific language, because like I said, language limited hoti hai unki. Easy karo language ko so that they understand, right? That's push-in. Basically, push-in is when a teacher goes in and supports.
Okay.
Pull out is when a child is not being taught within the class. It's he or she is taken out of the class, taken separately and taught. Okay? This is push in and pull out, basically.
Sorry, pull out may like the child is taken separately after the class has been finished. कि दो दफा concept, the same concept is taught twice, or like the child is completely taken out of the class.
Good question. Acha, to answer this question, the
Yeah.
thing is, if I'm talking about dyslexic kids, so basically problem with reading and writing, right? So let me tell you the idea, how it should be done, and then I'll talk about how it's actually done. Okay?
Okay.
The
Yeah.
idea is that whatever, for example, learning disabilities to or be na, maybe there's a math problem, maybe the child has dyscalculia. So maybe math में जरूरत है, reading writing में नहीं है. Just saying. This जो reading writing issue okay बच्चे होंगे, they will be specifically taken out in that slot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how long do they need that remediation or intervention? Depends on the child again. लेकिन now actually what happens is कि clash आता है. Curriculum भी पढ़ाया जा रहा है, and then बाहर भी लेके जाया जा रहा है. अगर मैं like for example, I'll give you my example. If I am asked to remediate a child, जो भी class में teach हो गया, that concept has to be retaught. Maybe use your own strategies, but just focus on the curriculum. That's remediation, right? Just reteaching. But if a child is diagnosed, that child will not only need remediation, that child will also need intervention. Intervention programs are specific programs that work as a backup program, foundation को strengthen करने के लिए they are used. Now, what happens is upper elementary में grade 4, 5, 6 and then onwards, ये करना ज्यादा मुश्किल हो जाता है to pull out because they are expected कि curriculum किया जाए. However, the concept of push in and pull out is that it should be done in place of. It shouldn't be that that child does this and then goes back and also has to finish his
Mm-hmm.
or her work. That should be done in place of. Usually ऐसा नहीं होता
Okay.
क्योंकि इसमें और बड़ी चीज आ जाती हैं, कोलैबोरेशन विद द क्लास टीचर, लेसन प्लानिंग की शेयरिंग, को प्लानिंग करना. नहीं, यहाँ को प्लानिंग नहीं होती है. यूजुअली पुशन में जब आप जाते हो आपको बाद में पता चलता है कि अच्छा मैं आज पढ़ाया क्या जा रहा है. So all of that needs to work. The idea is that it should, when the child is pulled out, like for example those who come who work with me, usually lower में ज़्यादा easy हो जाता है क्योंकि उनके पास time होता है. They have that, the teacher has that space, वो भेज देती है उन्हें, ज्यादा काम वही होता है, लेटर्स ये, तो वो अगर डिफरेंट तरीके से हमारे साथ इंटरवेंशन में सीख रहे हैं, देयर इज नथिंग मच दैट दे हैव टू कवर. So intervention programs or remediation programs, these should be used in place but are not always carried out this way.
Okay. Uh, from this, in case I'm wrong, please correct me. From this, I understood that the pull out strategy, if applied correctly, is the better approach, right? Because you don't need, shouldn't do the, like you explained, the difference between remediation and intervention. So pull out, if done properly, you wouldn't be following the remediation thing, but rather the intervention, right?
Okay, so
Okay.
yeah, that is there. पुल आउट में
Okay.
दो चीजें हो सकती हैं रिदा, रिमीडिएशन भी होती है, इंटरवेंशन. जरूरी नहीं है हर बच्चा डायग्नोस्ड हो, राइट? हर
Yeah.
बच्चा जरूरी नहीं है हर बच्चा डिसलेक्सिक हो. दे मस्ट जस्ट सिंपली देयर जस्ट स्ट्रगलिंग विद रीडिंग राइटिंग. रिमीडिएट करो उनको. और लेट मी मेक इट सिंपल, जो भी कर रहे हो आप पुल आउट में, आप एक प्रोग्राम फॉलो कर रहे हो, ठीक है, यूर डूइंग इट, आइदर यूर यूजिंग द करिकुलम और यूर नॉट यूजिंग द करिकुलम. लेट्स जस्ट फोकस ऑन द अप्रोच ऑफ गोइंग इन और गोइंग आउट. If you're moving out of the class, what you're basically doing is you are making it easier, simplified, one-to-one or a small group tailored instruction. ठीक है? Push in में आप basically साथ साथ simultaneously काम कर रहे हो, right?
Yeah.
Now when you say कि better क्या है,
Hmm.
so these intervention programs are evidence based, research evidence based है. Research हमें inform करती है. हमारी सोसाइटी में रिसर्च ऐसे होती नहीं है. हमारी नॉलेज अभी फिलहाल तो बाहर से आ रही है.
Yeah.
तो बाहर की नॉलेज ये कहती है, क्योंकि ऑब्वियसली कुछ चीजें तो सिमिलर हैं, नॉलेज ये कहती है, रिसर्च ये कहती है that you know how, or even research ये कहती है कि push in is better, क्योंकि इंक्लूसिव है, द चाइल्ड विल नॉट फील लेफ्ट आउट, पेयर्स होंगे, ये होगा. बट the idea, sorry, did I say push in? Sorry, pull out is good, but push in maybe it's said that it will be effective. But experts who are actually in that field, they don't say ye better hai, wo better hai. It depends from child to child. My idea is, if I'm now talking about dyslexic specifically, अगर मैं किसी और की बात नहीं कर रही, किसी भी और disorder की बात नहीं कर रही, dyslexic
Yeah.
student really struggling with reading and writing, maybe in their grade 3, grade 4, or अगर इसमें है grade 2 से grade 4 के bracket में. I'm being very specific. अब मैं एक situation ला रही हूँ आप लोगों के सामने, right? That child is struggling and is way behind. Then that child needs intervention, needs pull out. But we also need to make sure कि वो isolate ना हो जाए. अब ये नहीं है कि टीचर के this child is dyslexic, इसको बाहर ही रखो क्लास से. That's not called pulling out. You pull out from something. अगर आपने किसी को isolate ही रखा हुआ, that's not pulling out, right?
Yeah.
So which approach is better? Experts, and my idea is when you combine both of them,
Combine both.
right? Push in and pull out, hybrid approach. You make sure most of the time the child is in class, is communicating, is interacting, but where needed, itna time slot ho at least 50 to 60 minutes ka, that the child can come out and do that specific thing. In addition to that, the child doesn't need to go back and finish what he or she had left or what teacher had expected. वो उधर and then दोनों को combine.
हाँ, मतलब इसमें यही है ना कि आपने थोड़ा सा, जैसे कि आपने कहा कि we need to also see according to the child. आपने जो है अपनी अप्रोच को पर्सनलाइज करना है फॉर द चाइल्ड. अच्छा, आफिया, हमने डिसलेक्सिया की बात की, व्हाट डिसलेक्सिया इज और क्या सिम्टम्स हैं, क्या अप्रोच है. आई आल्सो वांट टू आस्क, अपने एक्सपीरियंस में आपने क्या ऑब्जर्व किया है कि व्हाट इज द, क्या कहना चाहिए, हाउ डज इट साइकोलॉजिकली इफेक्ट द स्टूडेंट्स, what is the effect on their self-esteem, and what changes are observed in self-esteem after the intervention is done?
Okay. पहले तो I'll say कि स्टूडेंट्स को ज्यादा इफेक्ट पता नहीं करे ना करे, पेरेंट्स को पहले इफेक्ट कर जाता है, राइट? एंड why I'm saying this is when I was doing my training, Rita, I would like to share this. कि जब मैं अपनी training कर रही थी, I did not start off as a teacher, right? I started off as a facilitator. So teacher की थोड़ी different vibe होती है, एक mentor की या एक facilitator की vibe different होती है. वो थोड़े flexible होते हैं. They're not very prescriptive. ये करो, you know, वो approach नहीं होती. Now this the training that I took, the Orton Gillingham approach, this is a teaching approach, right? So जब मैं training ले रही थी, my mentor, she used to see my videos, and the first two sessions that I did, she was like, you're just doing, and you're making the child do. Where is the discussion part? And my answer was, yeah, I went, I saw my video as well, and I was like, you're right, but बच्चा है, child hai, how much would he understand? And there she said, that's the problem. Because we assume as adults, बच्चे को समझ आएगी, बच्चा डर जाएगा. हम डरे हुए हैं खुद और ये प्रोजेक्ट करने के बच्चा डर जाएगा, right? But and I started verbalizing that this is what it is, and you're struggling. As in you're struggling, you're struggling, you have to work. No,
Yeah.
ask the child, what do you think uh, happens when you're in class and you're reading writing? You sometimes don't finish your work. What do you think? The child will definitely tell you. Child से पूछें, अपनी चीज impose ना करें, right? So this happened, and I started verbalizing, and the child started verbalizing as well. Now, when अब पेरेंट्स सपोर्टिव हैं, डिसलेक्सिक स्टूडेंट्स के बच्चों को ज्यादा मैं देखा है, दूसरी लर्निंग डिसेबिलिटीज के बच्चों को भी पेरेंट्स बहुत सपोर्टिव हैं यहाँ, which is very very good, but supportive doesn't mean that you become overprotective. Some point in time the child is going to be independent. You cannot be with the child always. कोई उसको bully भी कर देगा शायद, कोई generally बात कर रहा होगा और बच्चे को लग जाएगी. So that child needs to know how am I supposed to deal with this? How am I supposed to tackle with this situation, right? If the parents are saying, no, we're very supportive. If you are very supportive and you think your child is very good in other areas, definitely your child will have other strengths. Why are you hiding it from the child? Why are you not telling the child कि this is what it is, and this is how I would like? अगर आप खुद confident होगे, it will show on your face and your child will pick it up from you, right? Now coming to the point, those who've come to me. So those who come to me, once, बच्चों को हमेशा आइडिया होता है कि कोई प्रॉब्लम है. अब उनको ये पता है कोई प्रॉब्लम है, हमने उनको ये बोला है कि ये प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, ये एक चैलेंज है जो आपने फेस करना है, ठीक है? आइडिया, चेंज द वर्ड्स, द टर्म्स यू आर यूजिंग. ये बहुत प्रॉब्लम नेगेटिव फ्लाइट में चली जाती है चीज. वी आर नॉट सपोज टू डू दैट. Those who came to me, they always knew कि कुछ, and I'm also talking about those who were like really young. They also, and they always, I can't do this, and they were so good at explaining the issues that they went through, and I was like, wow, they're so good at it. So they don't know कि कुछ है, लेकिन क्योंकि hidden वाला एक atmosphere बनाया था, so they keep hiding it. If you open up, they'll open up with you, and they and the teachers said this eventually, the child is, they won't get the concept in one go, but they get more confident. I know this. Agar master kar liya wo concept, oh, I can do this. And because reading, writing, spelling issues hote hain, so they also come and share their achievements with you. Ye hua, spelling test hua, aise hua, I did this, and then I used that technique. You remember you taught me. So they become more confident, and that's very important.
This just sort of made me realize how like how innocent children are, and they like even though they realize that there might be a problem per se, uh, their self-esteem I think is only affected by the adults, like by the hidden atmosphere, because we make them feel okay, like there's something really wrong or you won't fit in, and like we impose that, and it's we who are like hurting their self-esteem. Like if we don't do that, if the society does not attach the stigma, then on the focus can only be on the intervention part and like the improving part. Yeah, this is what I just
Yeah.
realized.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly.
so there's just gonna take a few comments. Uh, Rahma Sohail is saying, great question. Thank you so much, Rahma. Great questions from host and great answers by the guest. I have also worked with dyslexics. It's amazing. Thank you
Good
so much for
job.
your question.
It's
Thank you.
it's really in it's I am assuming maybe in Pakistan she works. I don't know if that's so. In Pakistan, abhi bhi there is a lot that we need to work on. Okay, and those who are doing it, thumbs up, because really we need to continue this. And because हमारे सेटिंग में जब वर्क सेटिंग होती है ना उसमें बहुत बात होगी, डिस्लेक्सिक
Mm,
है, लर्निंग डिसेबिलिटी, ये है, क्या करें. लेकिन जब ऐसे पॉइंट्स आते हुए ओके लेट्स रियली टॉक अबाउट इट, लाइक रियली लेट्स लर्न समथिंग, पीपल डिसअपियर. ठीक है. दे वांट टू हाइड इट. व्हाई? जहाँ बात करनी चाहिए वहां कर नहीं रहे, और अब
वहाँ
वहां
yeah,
किसको अफेक्ट कर रहे हो? बच्चों को अफेक्ट कर रहे हो. बच्चों को आप बोलोगे यूर डम, you're lazy, you don't want to do it, you're not interested, बोलते रहो. आप क्या कर रहे हो? आप बोलते रहोगे, you are getting fed up. बच्चे ने वैसे सीखना नहीं है, वो अपसेट होता रहेगा. You're not getting anything out of it.
sure.
So that's the thing.
Uh, what uh, what's the duration for a standard intervention session?
50 to 60 minutes.
Okay.
50 to 60 minutes needed, because for the program that we use, the approach that I use, it's a structured approach. By structured I mean that the concepts that we teach, they go in an order, एक progression होता है that we follow.
Mm-hmm.
ठीक है. And उस progression में there are different parts. We will work on sounds, just recognizing, identifying the sounds. Then we will go on to graphemes, recognizing the graphemes. Then we move on. We do these manipulations like blending, segmenting with sounds, with graphemes, and then we go move towards spelling. So ये different ये proper एक lesson plan होता है, जैसे class teacher lesson plan बनाता है, वैसे इसका एक lesson plan होता है. There are different sections, and each section needs like 5 to 7 or maximum 10 minutes. So that's why 50 to 60 minutes.
Okay. Uh, the Shahaz Nadeem said, I wanted to ask if self-esteem improves with medical treatment. We have already sort of covered it. So I think we can say yes, it does improve.
But why if self-esteem, just because if I'm talking about dyslexics here, if self-esteem is not that good because the child realizes or somehow is circled as someone who is low, and that's why the self-esteem is really low. अगर
Mhm.
इसकी बात करें specifically, you don't need a treatment. What you really need is talking to the child. Like I said, verbalize करना बहुत जरूरी. And I did someone asked me कि dyslexia की कोई medicines होती हैं? नहीं होती हैं. You don't take medications for dyslexia. It's all about rewiring the brain. And again, emotionally, if you give that emotional support to the child, वो push क्यों नहीं मिलेगी बच्चे को? बिल्कुल मिलेगी. When the child knows, oh, I am accepted in real terms, then why not? Why not? Why would that child not actually benefit from it or show progress? Will definitely.
Yeah. We're just going to take one more question. Is social awkwardness or Asperger's part of dyslexia?
Okay.
Uh, yeah.
No. Uh, it's not. I can't speak much on this because this is not really my area, but it's all I can say is it's not part of dyslexia. See, social awkwardness is more casual in that way.
Mhm.
Awkwardness आपको किसी आपका कोई diagnosis ना हो भी तो आपको social awkwardness हो जाती है, right? If I talk on a casual basis, it
Mhm.
has nothing to do with dyslexia. That's what I can say. But I can't really talk about Asperger's separately or social awkwardness because that's not really my area. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So thank you so much, Afia. This has been really interesting. Any final words you'd like to give to our viewers about dyslexia or any piece of advice?
Okay. Thank you so much, Shrida. This was my pleasure. I enjoyed it a lot. It actually gave me that chance to really, all that I had inside me, it really came out.
Yeah,
So
no, no,
thank
we're
you.
really glad for it. This has been really informative, and I'm sure it will benefit a lot of people.
Thank you. Thank you. And last words would be again, pandemic, stay strong. Uh, you need to motivate yourself so that you can motivate your child. So keep doing that, and especially for those who know that their children are dyslexic or they struggle with reading and writing, just because you're at home does not mean that you do not keep the child engaged with reading writing activities. Keep doing that. That reinforcement, that practice is really needed.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Afia. And
Thank
thank you to our viewers who have been like, I loved the questions. Thank you so much for being engaging. And I hope this session was beneficial to you. And we'll keep on bringing more interesting sessions. Thank you so
Take
much.
care. Bye.
Allah Hafiz.
Office.